Welcome back. So let's continue this discussion. If you've just joined in, the Minerals Council South Africa has taken issue with those who say the mining industry is an epicentre of COVID-19 in South Africa. The council says these assertions are not only inaccurate, but serve to spread fear among workers and communities in which they reside. There are now 679 confirmed COVID-19 cases at various mines countrywide. Numbers show that there are more than 230,000 miners that are back at work now. Unions say they're concerned about the steady increase in infections. So we've been discussing this for a short while with AMCU President Joseph Mathunjwa, also with Dr. Thuthula Balfour, who's the head of head of health at the Minerals Council of South Africa. We're now adding to the conversation Joseph Montisetse, who is the president of the National Union of Mineworkers. We should be joined by Zwelinzima Vavi as well, of the General Secretary of SABC. That should happen a bit later on in the program, but we'll introduce him when he does. But for now, Joseph, a very good morning to you, and thank you again for joining us on the show.
Thank you very much.
So I've been asking your fellow guests as well the same question, so I think it's a good starting point as well with you. What do you take issue with this narrative, as it's being called, about mines being the epicentre of COVID-19 in South Africa?
Well, it is very clear that we have a lot of infection from the mining industry compared to any industry that I have heard about in the country. We have many cases in the Limpopo, whereby we went all our way to challenge the provincial government when the mining houses were very arrogant, don't want to stop operation. The government has to intervene because we challenged the government to intervene, and we closed some of the mines. You will recall Marula mine and Duffs and other mines. Also the problem at Angulgoda Shine Timponeng, whereby close to 200 workers were tested positive. So you cannot deny the narrative that the mining operation is the epicenter of the infection, because numbers are telling.
Yeah, and they really are. I mean, when you paint a picture that way. So let's, I suppose, now look at what's actually being done to contain the spread of COVID-19 at these various mines. I mean, we see miners, they're underground, it's hot, it's humid, people are in very close proximity to one another. And there have also been reports that workers at smelters in Limpopo and other provinces have contracted COVID-19 under these conditions. So what can be done?
These are terrible times that need leaders to have a program, joint program. We have started at Sebanye as labor, the NUM, AMCU, and other Mickey Mouse trade union there, and engage management to have a program that is able to agree about the approach on what we have to do. So the problem is that mining houses are arrogant. They don't want to understand that this is not about production now only. It is about the lives of mine workers, and especially the black mine workers, because they are the ones that go to areas whereby the street team, like President of AMCU have said, the areas where they are entering the cage, which has and other areas. So if we can agree, because we have an agreement with Sebanye, which we want to utilize across the mining, whereby we said labor, mine management must agree about the approach whenever, how people should be tested, how people should be social distance, and all the staff that we must be involved in the health staff that are going to help mine workers. So we have stuck now because Sebanye doesn't want to implement the agreement that is a joint agreement that we want to utilize across the industry. We have appealed to the Department of Mineral to intervene. They have not yet intervened.
Okay. I see that. Sorry, conclude.
The problem here is the only reasonable way of solving this problem, it is when we work together, mine managers, labor, and other stakeholders to agree in every step of saving the lives of mine workers.
I think a same sentiment was echoed a little bit earlier from Dr. Balfour as well. But I see that we've got Zwelinzima Vavi from SAFTU on with us now. So Zweli, thanks. Good to see you as well. So everybody's had an opportunity to give their view and standpoint on this call from the Minerals Council saying that mining is becoming somewhat of an epicentre, or the epicentre of COVID-19 in South Africa. What are your views on this?
Good morning to you, Leon, first, and good morning to the two other comrades on studio with you. And thank you very much for inviting us. We warned, Leon, right when we were still on level 5, that government's recklessness and their willingness to be toe-going to the demands of the mining industry is going to be paid through the lives of mine workers, black mine workers in particular. If you will recall, even ahead of anything else, this government sort of gave in to the pressure of the mining bosses and opened the mining industry beyond them being essential services and beyond the fact that the maintenance workers were in any case allowed to work during the stage level 5 of COVID-19 alert levels. Now, government opened the mining industry at 50%, irrationally, opened the wine exporting and to export wines to Europe irrationally in defiance of their own regulations. They went ahead, the pleas that we made on deaf ears, the letters we sent to the president and the minister were not even responded to. When we were at level 4, already the mining industry was already long operational at 50%, all of the sectors of the economy. We warned at the time, most of the mining workers are migrant laborers, mainly from the Eastern Cape. They were exposed right at the point when they moved into those taxes. When they move into those informal settlements they are staying in, when they move from their informal settlements to the mining industry using their own private cars and taxis, and were exposed at a time when they were being asked to work, and as we would have heard from the two leaders, the mining industry has been one of the worst in terms of compliance. They didn't have adequate measures. There is no social distancing. There is no protective personal equipment. There is no sanitizers. There is no high hygiene. There is a big rush to do production at all costs, and that cost at the lives of mine workers. And government must be the one that must accept that every time a mine worker will die as a result of this virus, their hands will be dripping in the blood of mine workers.
Yeah, you know, this is, I mean, you're touching on an issue that has been pre-COVID-19 conditions, but now, of course, with COVID-19 around, this is even exacerbating the living conditions, the working conditions of miners in South Africa. I took a trip out to the northwest. We visited a mining village, and to see the conditions that these miners are living in is absolutely dismal. It should not be allowed. So even working under these circumstances, not getting the PPE, the adequate PPE, as you yourself have said, Zweli, as well as sanitizers. I mean, they're going back to housing that sometimes doesn't have running water. It doesn't have any of these things available to them to try and get to a point where everybody else that doesn't work in these mines is able to, and I suppose we can say the bosses. So, you know, in terms of, let's come back to you, Mr. Mathunjwa. What do we do I mean, there's now this scenario where we find that the Minerals Council has said that government is in talks with the mining sector about allowing foreign nationals now to return to work across mines. I mean, they make up about 10% of South Africa's mining workforce, and the industry, of course, has requested the return of about 9,000 or 9,500 workers from Mozambique, Lesotho, etc. What will this do now?
Thank you very much. I think one will sound like a scratch record. I mean, when this coronavirus attack or came to the workplaces, or even before, AMCU was the only trade union who would try by all means to conscientize every trade union that we shouldn't allow the government and the Chamber of Mine to take the workers back to work without putting proper measures. For instance, the testing. We were not only, we were saying testing is the way to go. But however, the 50% of ramping of the mine was allowed by many of the trade unions today that we are sharing the platform with today. I mean, in particular, NUM had no problem with that. We had to drag these mines to court to have a minimum regulation to protect mine workers. And even though that we've done that, still there is compliance. And we've made a clarion call to the government to say, let them employ more inspectors. We've got many graduates who are sitting at home, who's been at home since they were graduated. They've never seen any door of employment. Take those graduates, give them, a 101 induction in terms of mine health and safety regulation. Let the inspectors to check these mines that they are complying. Even today, we as trade unions, we are not supporting each other. We are calling for universal testing. They are not for that one, because the universal testing is costing the company their profits. So if we are serious about combating this coronavirus in the mining sector, why can't we come clear as all trade unions and federations to say no worker will return to work if there is no testing before? Because that's the only way to go. And surely this coronavirus will cause employment. And the companies putting these mines or any sector into a care and maintenance, of which the workers will be suffering. And it will be reckless of us to call the mines to close down at this point in time. We need to say we must save lives, we must save jobs, we must save the economy. But the only way that hasn't been tested 100% is the issue of testing. And if we do allow the companies to continue with only screening and testing came after, that means we cannot win this war of coronavirus. These mines must be compelled to set up their own laboratories. These mines, they've made a huge profit in the last financial year. So therefore, they can set up their own laboratories. And thirdly, these mines, they are even failing to comply with their own social labor plan. As we are correctly saying that, look at the communities where these mines are raking all these minerals. They are not in compliance. They are low into themselves. They are the government. I keep on saying that most of these COOs, they are powerful more than the ministers of the government. Our government is scared of this. We don't know for what good reason. The communities are suffering. They're messing up the water tables, all the communities. The livestock are suffering because of the mining, and there's no consequences. You look at the Mine Health and Safety Act itself, it's just a document which is toothless. We've been calling for the amendments of the Mine Health and Safety Act. Now, currently, the very same mine, they don't want to disinfect the hostel. because it's too expensive for them. They are using the medical of the workers, for the testing of this coronavirus. And the contractors itself, they are not included. The contractors has to see themselves how they conduct their own screening and testing. And then if we are, the DMRE does not listen, as they didn't listen when they allowed the mines to ramp up at 50%, these mines gonna close down and the economy gonna shrink as it is, and the workers will be unemployed. And, and these issues will have a negative knock-on effect to the society. The crime will rise, and the children will be out of school. The families, will suffer. There is a lot of things that's going to happen in this coronavirus if this government does not take a drastic measure initiative to see to it that these mines comply with this regulation.
Yeah, I want to go to NUM now, because there's a lot that's been said, and the reality is that let's talk to consultation before these mines were opened, and why it was said that they were in a good condition to open and that workers would be protected, when on the other side of the coin it appears that that's not the situation. Many are saying that the mines in South Africa are a perfect storm, and we could wait a tsunami if something dramatic is not done now. NUM, give us your views. What is your reaction to this?
Thank you very much. I would not like to about NUM.
Joseph, we are able to hear you. Please carry on.
National Council to talk about the regulations that were adopted by the National Council of COVID-19. And as NUM, we can't just sit down and say we are not going to participate about the quarantine, all the things, sanitizers, and all the regulations. And it is our responsibility to engage. And I don't think as leaders, when we are facing a crisis like this, we have to blame each other. I think what is important is that our shop stewards at shop floor, who are working every day with management that is very much arrogant.
We're having a very...
should work together for the common cause, the spread of against the mine workers. So where we are sitting now,
yeah, all right. We unfortunately are losing Joseph. We cannot get your answer, and I'm not sure.
We have to make sure that
it just seems we're not doing any justice to your answer, unfortunately. I need to move on. We'll try and get the connection right and get your answer, because it's important, and I can hear that you're making vital points there. But unfortunately, I'm sure, along with my guests, we can't hear what you're saying. I want to quickly come to you, Dr. Balfour. I've heard, we've heard of some reports of mine workers that are not allowed to go in. I mean, the racial story is now coming back. I think it's at Village Main Reef's West Gold operations, accusing management of racial discrimination as well. They allege that it is only allowing their white colleagues to return to work under level 3 of the lockdown, and there's been a lot of confrontations and demonstrations, and there's a lot of in fact, I'm not going to come to you for this question. I'd rather go to Zwelinzima. I want to come back to you for the health issue. But Zweli, these kind of stories, I mean, where does this fit into the bigger picture now? I mean, we still have to face racism as well?
And it appears from what the Mineral Council is saying, also xenophobia. There can be no rationale at this particular moment to say that the regime who constitute about 10% of the mining workers must now not return, as if they are somehow the face of the virus, when they actually not. It is South African who is the face of the virus in the context of the African continent. And SAFTU must immediately condemn any kind of racism. We condemn any kind of xenophobia. Any kind of discrimination is anti-human. we reject it with a totality of the contempt that it deserves. The mining industry was these towns, these cities, we appreciate from Johannesburg to every city in all of the former Transvaal regions, were made and created through the blood, the sweat, and the sacrifices of all workers in our region of Southern Africa, whether you're from Lesotho, Botswana. In fact, the president of the NUM now is a citizen of Botswana. The founding president of the NUM is a citizen of Lesotho. There have been countless workers, excellent leaders from Mozambique, Malawi, and everywhere else. Why now, at the point of this crisis, we want to send a message to all of them that they are the least welcome to come back and make a continuous contribution to the development of South African economy? This is absolutely barbaric stuff that really belongs to the past. It's not different to how black people are being treated by the white racist here in South Africa and everywhere else in the world. And I hope that all unions will stand in unison to condemn racism, to condemn xenophobia, and to condemn any kind of discrimination, including any kind of sexism, because that's going to be the next. If you begin to hit workers from the region and then suddenly it's black workers, the next is going to be women workers that are going to be discriminated against. We must reject all kinds of that. And by the way, couldn't hear what the president of the NUM was saying. Sorry, Joe, but I want to endorse every statement that the AMCU president, Joseph Mathunjwa, making. I think for the fact that they went to court ahead of all of us to say country and government. Yeah. The mining industry was not ready to comply with any of the regulations. And in fact, at that moment, there were no regulations of any kind whatsoever. It was through that court action that hurriedly the government put together regulations to be applicable for the mining industry. And that is a very important historic contribution that the AMCU comrades have made to them. And we must commend them that they stood firm in defense of the workers in the mining industry. But then that's the past. The future belongs to all of those who are foresighted, who knows that in essence, what we are being called for by the COVID-19 is that workers, the trade unions must unite and not allow either the government or the bosses in the mining industry to play a divide and rule against themselves in the process of pursuing their objective of generating profit, even at the expense of the lives of mine workers at this moment. Unity is what we need.
Indeed. Zweli, thank you. I'm going to leave your views there. I don't know if, Joseph, I'm not sure if your connection is a bit better, but there's just so much that's been said. We're desperate for a response from you. So I'm just going to try again. I'm hoping that our connection is a bit better. What is your response to what's been said?
Well, I think that what is important is for the trade union in the mining industry to work together as a team. The issue of politicizing who is strong and who is weak will not help mine workers. As leaders, as we are appearing here, our members on the ground are looking at us to rescue them from this dangerous disease, which is called COVID-19. So my proposal will be that labor at the workplace should unite and have the same position, which is written down to challenge management. Because we at the top, we can talk, but the people that are suffering are the ones that are at the working place. And that's where we have to help them to develop policies that are having contribution from labor to make sure that we stop management to do things arrogantly, disregard of lives and disregard of safety and disregard of the regulations that are put in place, that AMCU has gone to court to challenge the government that they should those regulations. We have to work together at the working place as labor. Divided we fall, united we stand. Black life matters, as we have seen internationally, that the brutality of the racist imperialist whites in the United States of America continue to kill the black mine workers. And this is what is happening even here, because even these mines does not belong to South Africa. Yeah. They belong to people that maximize profit coming from America and London. And they don't care about the life of mine workers. So our only weapon is unity, and unity only. No anyone can claim to be strong alone, because he can never win any war. We have won South Africa from apartheid because we have a unity of forces that were fighting against apartheid. This is a new demon which is coming into the country that need unity of workers. Karl Marx was good when he said, workers of the world unite. And if we cannot take that slogan of the pioneer of the struggle of the workers in the world and unite, as Karl Marx has instructed us, we are going to fail. Yeah. There's no one who can claim to be strong alone.
Yeah, all right. I have to leave that there. Gentlemen, I'm giving the lady the final word. We're already well into our news hour, but the reality on the ground and some of the shocking revelations that we've heard this morning about the conditions of these mines, not proper PPE, sanitation not there. It's devastating to hear some of these stories. What is going to happen, Dr. Balfour? What's the way forward?
Can we unite in one thing then? If I may respond.
Mr. Mathunjwa, give us one moment. Let's just get Dr. Balfour to respond to this.
All right. Thank you.
Leanne, I've heard of the exceptions, and I'm not aware of any of those. But from the Minerals Council, we have had a preparation in place for a long time. Our members had standard operating procedures, which are in line with the guideline which was developed by the DMRE. So they implemented readiness far earlier, than what the department put out. And the department is actually monitoring and inspecting the mines. The way we see it regarding the figures, we are fairly comfortable that there have been infections. Most of those infections have been asymptomatic. It's less than 50 people who have actually become sick. And we had, during the lockdown, we haven't had another person moment. And so in terms of the development of the disease, we are fairly comfortable. And the next phase now is for us to protect the vulnerable employees, those who are aged and also those who have comorbidities. So as we take on new employees, or not new, but returning employees, we are going to be careful around protecting the vulnerable. And also when it comes to the returning mine workers from epicenters in South Africa and also from the neighboring countries, they are all going to be quarantined for 14 days, which means then that they will not pose any threat in terms of adding to the burden of the disease. As it is now, we are fairly comfortable that things are going well, and we are continuing to monitor. And we actually have a lot of our own CEOs meeting on a fortnightly basis to review the situation, to learn from each other, to implement measures to ensure that, things do not get worse and they only get better. Yeah. But I can just take from the words of some of the colleagues here that this is something we need to do together. Mm. We cannot fight COVID as single entities. So at a mine, it's the workers and management who need to fight this together. And at a community level, the mine with the community, with the district, has to fight the epidemic. Thank you. Yes.
And we understand that there's one thing that's come through very, very hard in this interview is that there needs to be this unity and togetherness in working. But also, Dr. Balfour, you need to take what has been said here seriously, because obviously there is a problem. I mean, we've heard it from all three of the mine bosses that there seems to be a problem with regard to PPE, sanitization and conditions for miners. You need to look into this seriously. Mr. Mathunjwa, I leave it with you. I know you wanted to say something, but please be very, very quick.
Yes, thank you. If we talk about the unity, we are calling to all these mines, because we are on level 3, to pay workers. We are no longer in lockdown 5 and lockdown 4. We are on lockdown 3. The mines bosses must pay the workers their full salary. And for the trade unions that they seek us to be part of the unity to moving forward as a working class, we call upon them, let's unite and fight this retrenchment that these employers are putting our members, they want to put our members on the street. Let's unite. Let be no mine will be allowed to retrench workers because of COVID-19. Then I will see that these other trade unions are really serious about the plight of the black mine workers in South Africa. And the government itself must show, their power, that they are not controlled by the business. It's a government voted by us into power. This government must tell these mines where to get off.
All right, we leave it there. Everybody, thank you. Thanks so much for joining us. Dr. Thuthula Balfour, Head of Health at the Minerals Council of South Africa. I beg your pardon. We also have Joseph Montisetse, who is the National Union of Mineworkers President, and from SAFDU, General Secretary Zwelinzima Vavi, also talking to us here, as well as Joseph Mathunjwa. We thank every single one of you. Well into the news, or even over the news. It's 8:08, but we needed to get that conversation to you. Sakina, will you remind us of the stories that we're following this morning?